Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and it's finally time to drop reviews. You've already likely seen my Immortal Empire's impression / review video, but alongside that comes a DLC, the Champions of Chaos, which deserves its own review video because, well, it's DLC, it's not FLC. So let's not waste any more time and jump right in because there's a lot to talk about. The Champions of Chaos DLC is a very new format for what we've been used to in the Total War Warhammer series. Rather than being a Lord pack where it's race versus race, or a race pack where it's just a single race being added in, this is expanding on an already established race, namely the Warriors of Chaos, the first ever DLC for the Total War Warhammer series, which was in desperate need of a rework, let's be very honest there. So yeah, keep in mind that the Warriors of Chaos were day one DLC, and they've been in a very abysmal state since then. Yeah, they were a bit of a challenge in Warhammer 1, but they are finally in a different place. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the rework itself because the rework is FLC, meaning that if you own the Warriors of Chaos, the standard day 1 DLC from Warhammer 1, you will have the new update. So what does this DLC bring? Well, a few things actually. First up, we have 4 new legendary lords: Valkyr the Bloody, Azazel the Prince of Damnation, Festus the Leech Lord, and Village the Curseling. These are very popular characters from the history of Warhammer Fantasy. Most of them themselves are known from, well, a lot of editions. Some of them are just known from big lore moments. It very much depends on where you look at them, but they're all very, very popular, and it's with them that comes a completely new system, as what this DLC introduces is sub-factions. Now, we always had lords that have been introduced for Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 that have kind of been radically different in terms of playstyle, or just a little bit different from the race that they actually fit into. But the fact is that these ones act as a mono-god light in a sense. They can still go undivided, but rather than having access to all the units in the DLC, each of these factions only has access to a specific amount, following with their lore-friendly sense. Valkyr the Bloody focuses on Khorne units, Azazel focuses on Slaaneshi units, Village the Curseling focuses around Tzeentch units, and Festus the Leech Lord focuses around Nurgle units. It's something which a lot of people used to kind of do on the tabletop when it came to theming their armies when they played as the Warriors of Chaos by giving them marks of chaos. So this means that the 4 legendary lords themselves, whilst being from the same tree, would play radically different. Valkyr the Bloody is a Khorne character, meaning that her army focuses a lot on frontline melee, heavy armor but hard hitting. This is an army which does not use magic. You can, but you really don't need it, as you're quite resistant to spells. You just want to go up there and smash your enemy apart. If you've played the Khorne faction with Skarbrand, it's kind of like that, just less demons and more mortals. Festus the Leech Lord focuses around Nurgle units, so this is slow but very, very hard hitting, loads of HP, and yeah, you've still got access to quite some potent magic with the Lore of Death and the Lore of Nurgle. You are playing the tank. This is the best way to explain it. The faction is focusing around tanking. Azazel is the faction devoted to Slaanesh, so you're focusing around units with speed, moving around quickly and hitting your enemy hard. But you've also got some Chaos Warriors of Slaanesh and a few others, which we'll talk about later, and you really are the hammer and anvil. Your Chaos Warriors being able to hold down the enemy in place whilst you get into position with your really strong cavalry and smashing into the enemy lines from the flank and the rear, that being your hammer. Now, the Tzeentch one might actually be very surprising. You see, they don't play like the Tzeentch faction in the Demons, as Tzeentch on the tabletop was actually very tanky too. That might be very curious to some of you, but yeah, you would actually build up a defensive line and then being able to use a lot of spell casting. So it was kind of similar, because magic is still very, very important, but it wouldn't play the same way as you've been playing Kairos, really. Alongside these 4 lords and their unique playstyles come a bunch of new units. These units themselves are stuff that we technically had on the tabletop, and it's a bit of a weird conversation, so yeah, let's just jump right in. So, the fact is that these units never really existed in a certain sense. We've never had these units looking like this. If you wanted a Chaos Warrior of Slaanesh, for example, on the tabletop, you would just get a Warrior of Chaos, paint them pink, and there you go. Warrior of Khorne, same thing. Paint them red, and there you go. we didn't have unique mono-god warriors back in the day, so these are completely new designs, likely approved or done by Games Workshop. It very much depends here. But before we get into the nitty-gritty about it, this means that a bunch of units have been implemented. So we have Chaos Warriors of Khorne, Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch, Chaos Warriors of Nurgle, Chaos Warriors of Slaanesh. We have a mono-god style roster which is available to the Warriors of Chaos and these chosen champions. That means that all the kit bashing that you used to do on the tabletop, if you were a former tabletop player, you've got that feeling here. You've got that feeling because these look like the warriors that we try to design by adding bits onto our plastic minis and trying to make them unique, because Games Workshop never, well, yeah, you know, laziness. For some, this is a very cool thing as it brings back the tabletop nostalgia like myself. For others, it's people complaining that it's reskins, though I will be very honest with you, and this is something that I've been wanting to talk about a lot. I don't think this is a lazy reskin, because the units still are different. This is a new skin, some of them had new weapons. The fact of the matter is, it's very similar to that of a culture pack that we used to get in the Total War historical games, because, you know, humans in a historical game don't really change. Yes, sometimes they need new animations, but they're usually the same rigging over and over again, with some different animations here and there, sometimes even the same animations. I understand why this might not have been the most exciting thing for a lot of people, saying that, no, they should have had new animations, we're paying this much money for the same thing over and over. But what you're getting is the stylized feel. Now, yes, I will be very honest in saying that some units look better than others. For example, the Chaos Warriors of Nurgle could do with some more Nurgle markings, but most of these are Chaos Warriors Undivided that have then devoted themselves, or at least that's the general gist of it, as, well, you know, it's a common thing in lore, and yes, some people saying that gameplay trumps over lore, but I'm pretty sure that how an armor looks doesn't really affect your gameplay. Again, yes, some of them could have looked better, but personally, I'm quite happy with what the results we've gotten so far. Again, growing up with Games Workshop and Warhammer Fantasy, we didn't have dedicated units, and we just had to build the same kit over and over and rely on our own creativity. However, these units to me look fantastic, and these are the ones I'm hoping that we'll end up getting in Warhammer the Old World. But I don't really want to talk about Warhammer the Old World because this is a Champions of Chaos DLC. With dedicated playstyles for each of the Champions of Chaos, you can pretty much have a feeling on how they worked in lore, how they worked on the tabletop. It's something that I've always wanted because, yeah, a lot of people had the argument of Monogod versus Undivided for the Demons of Chaos, but I also kind of wanted a Monogod option and then Undivided options for the Warriors of Chaos too, because it's just as important. If anything, the Warriors of Chaos generally were more varied than the Demons, mostly because Demons didn't really exist in too big numbers, you know, different varieties. Now, there is a theme and a story for this DLC as usual. All these types of DLCs normally come with their own background story, so you can play, you can get immersed with the lore. As always, I avoid these types of things and these types of reviews because I don't really like kinda spoiling it. If you guys want to explore that, you can do it for yourself. I just don't want to ruin anyone's potential fun, but what I can say is that it is heavily inspired by the Tamukhan book. This is one of the best supplements that Games Workshop have ever released on the tabletop, a very dramatic story with loads of things to it, but it's mostly focusing around the first chapters, and you know what? That's good. I actually really enjoyed it. It brought back a lot of nostalgia for me, and I thought that was really fun. Now keep in mind that the storyline can only be played through in the Realm of Chaos campaign. You're not dealing with the Rifts again, don't you worry, it's not the same, it's a completely different story, and I would say that if you like a well-written story, but like in the old Total War sense, where it was kind of minimalistic, and you just still played Total War, do this. You're going to actually quite enjoy this. The final battle in itself is very, very hectic, and I don't want to show that off because I kind of want you guys to explore it for yourselves and have some fun because, you know, again, spoilers aren't really fun, are they? Okay, so what does this DLC actually add? The 4 champions, as expected, a bunch of units which are monogod style, again, as expected, but really only one unique unit. We'll get to the unit now, and anything to do with the Warriors of Chaos rework, everything that you've been seeing, that's part of the FLC. I have to state that once again, that's not part of this DLC. Alright, let's talk about unique units. There's only one, the Chaos War Shrine. So this is a unit I've been waiting for a long, long time now because I'm a very big fan of the War Shrine on the tabletop. If you've seen my videos in the past when I've been discussing the releases or just the embargoes, I've been talking this unit up. It's pretty cool, and let's be honest, it looks pretty damn badass. It's a buffer unit, and it's got multi-uses depending on if you mark it or not, because there's 5 different variants of it. 1 undivided, and then 1 to each of the Chaos Gods. And I'm really happy that we have the Chaos War Shrine. What I'm not happy about is that we only had 1 unique unit. Yeah, the DLC is not that expensive, it's a little bit more expensive than the Lord Pack, and we're getting access to a lot of God-touched units, but I would have preferred if they added at least 1 or 2 more. We know there's concept art of the Chimera, because that was in the art book, and, well, that's not really a needed unit, but we know that they've done some work. Or, you know, it would have been cool to get a Slaughter Brute or a Mutileth Vortex Beast, as generally these types of DLCs, well, this is a completely new format, but DLCs normally bring in a big unit, and right now the Warriors of Chaos don't have a big unit. It's not needed, and keep in mind that I'm actually really happy that we have all these God-touched warriors, but there have been some new loading screens that mention Slaughter Brutes, so to me, I thought, well, maybe we're going to get a Slaughter Brute. That would have been big hype. Either way, I'm happy with the War Shrine, and I'm very, very happy with the roster, because now I can field God-specific units, which, yeah, we could have done in mods, but this is something, again, which is stylized. This is approved by Games Workshop, and for those of us who are tabletop fans, these are stuff that we're hoping we can once again see in Warhammer the Old World. Yeah, I know, I'm not mentioning Old World a lot, but it's important to us tabletop fans to see new, original representations for these units, like for example the Chaos Warriors of Sinesh. The DLC, as I've said, is a new format. We're not used to these Champions of Chaos formats where it adds in characters, a lot of characters, and a lot of units to already established races to give them a lot of much needed attention, which is something that the Lord Packs couldn't really do, as it was always very one-sided. And Creative Assembly have said that this is a test in a sense. They said that if people do like it, they will be looking to do this format again in the future if it is liked. So I want to talk about it in 2 ways. First up, how this worked as a Warriors of Chaos DLC, and I think this is the only thing they could have done for a Warriors of Chaos DLC. If they wanted to do a rework, they couldn't have done a standard Lord Pack, as yeah, we want to see monogods. We want to see a monogod style army, as many of us do have our favorite Chaos Gods. So I think that this format was absolutely amazing. If anything, I must say that this new format is probably my new favorite format. Yeah, there's race packs, which is a big favorite because, you know, it introduces new races, but to fix up races, to give a lot of attention and detail to races that are already established, to bring in a lot of units, to bring in a lot of characters, yeah, I think this is fantastic. I honestly think that for the future, if they're going to do stuff that's really, really detailed, it doesn't need a Lord Pack, it needs something like this. The Warriors of Chaos now have so many different options for Legendary Lords. They have so many different unit options. It is absolutely amazing. I have been playing a lot. I've been showing all the different types of lords, all the different types of playstyles. I've been seeing some of my friends who are content creators streaming, and it is amazing just to see so many different varied things, despite the fact that this is all one DLC. I'm playing through the Chaos factions, and I'm having that feeling I had with the tabletop, again, because yes, I'm going to reference the tabletop a lot, but I'm having that feeling where I used to spend so much time to make a Sinesh-devoted warband, or a Tzeentch-devoted warband, and I'm seeing that here, which is super, super cool. And the fact that they all play so drastically different is just absolutely awesome. This is a DLC which a lot of time has definitely been put into, and yeah, it could have done with some more, but we'll talk about that later. But the format of the DLC itself definitely needs to be reused. I had this thought, and I've spoken about it with Lawmaster Sotek on the Lawbeards podcast. I've spoken about it in videos before, I've spoken about it in my streams. Imagine if we had something of this format for the vampire counts, for all the bloodlines, to have, yes, a lot of units reskinned, but to fit the theme of the different bloodlines. And then we'll have sub-factions for the vampire counts, where we could have DLC lords, but, you know, a Strigoi, a Blood Dragon, a Necrarch, a Lamian. This could be used everywhere, even for the Empire, if the units from Warhammer the Old World end up getting used here. We're expecting a lot of god-specific religious units for the Empire, so why not a Churches of the Empire type of DLC, where you'll get Ulrican units, Starlight units, Morite units, you know, just to add in a lot of flavor with loads of different legendary lords focusing around those churches, Grandmasters, Ulrich, all that type of stuff. Sorry, I'm jumping into the possible future, but as you can imagine, I am kind of hyped up. I am really enjoying this DLC, but let's just jump into the next part. You know, another thing that this DLC does really, really well, as you can already see on screen, is that these units, if you've purchased the DLC, will transfer to the mono-god factions. Everyone was calling them demon factions. Hell, Creative Assembly said that they were mono-god demons, but with a sprinkle of mortals. But no, now they are fully there, which means that if you want a true dedicated faction, you want to play N'Kari, and you want a mixture of demons, all the demons and all the mortals, there you go. And this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool, because it means that the DLC has not only helped the Warriors of Chaos and giving them a massive new roster to play with, but it's also helped a number of new factions: Skarbrand, Kairos, Korgath, N'Kari, and hell, even Daniel the Demon Prince. Not all the units go to Daniel, but it's still something. It means that you've got a lot more to play with if you want to play again, and you've been missing out on some units. For example, N'Kari, which is a character I very much love, and yeah, there was a bit of an issue with N'Kari because the Slaanesh faction lacked some armor. It lacked the anvil for the hammer, so you struggled in later game. Same thing with Tzeentch, with Kairos. You didn't really have armor to protect yourself. Now you do. Khorne kind of plays the same, but then again, Khorne is like one of the best factions in terms of balance. Like, it is very, very, very strong. And Korgath now has access to some more mortal units, which means that you've got a little bit heavier armor if you don't want the fleshy units. It's just a bit of variety, and I think that works incredibly well. One thing I'm kind of disappointed about, other than the lack of unique units, is mount options. Okay, so characters such as the Exalted Hero, the Chaos Sorcerer, all this type of thing, when you dedicate them, they obviously become part of the specific roster that you're playing. So if you're playing Valkyr, they would then become Exalted Heroes of Khorne, Chaos Lords of Khorne. And they get access to a Juggernaut mount, which is, yeah, very, very cool. However, it would have been nice if the other characters got that too. You see, the Chaos Lord of Slaanesh doesn't get, say, a Seeker Chariot, which would have been really, really awesome. Yes, it wasn't a thing in the tabletop, but it would have just been nice. Or a Steed of Slaanesh as a mount. The Chaos Sorcerer Lord Nurgle would have been really, really cool on a Rotfly, because, I mean, that's freaking awesome. And it would have just added some really cool theme to it. The Chaos Lord of Tzeentch does get the disc, which is really cool. But you see, some of them got it, some of them didn't, and it's just a little bit frustrating, as it would have just added some nice new flavor. Yes, I know mount options might not be the most exciting thing, especially since these mounts would not be unique, as we've already had them in the base game, but it would just be nice to have, as if you're theming your army, why wouldn't you want to have your lord with their god-specific mounts? Why do only some of the sub-factions get it, but not the others? And that's really all I have to complain about, the lack of unique units and the lack of mount options. Yeah, I know. It's strange. I know a lot of people would complain about the fact that the Champions of Chaos characters have access to a stripped-down version of the Monogod factions, which they say kind of makes it lose its special thing, but really, you're playing this character like if it was a Monogod too, so it makes sense that a devoted character to a specific god is also going to have the mechanics devoted to that specific god. I mean, yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. This DLC itself has been a massive breath of fresh air, which I think was desperately needed to kind of kick off the monotony of Lord Pack, Lord Pack, Lord Pack, Lord Pack. Yes, race packs do just as well, and I can't wait for the next race pack, but the Lord Packs are the most common DLC, so if we have something that can kind of break that up and not make Lord Packs so common, they'll still likely be the most common, considering that Lord Packs are probably easier to make than anything else. I would still say that this has a lot of potential for the future, and if I have to give this a rating, which I generally don't do ratings, yeah, this would easily be 9 out of 10. It would be a 10 out of 10 if it had some new unique units, some more unique units, and the mount options. Other than that, I've had a blast. I've been streaming each character for around 8 to 10 hours each. and I've just been really enjoying myself. For context, by the time of recording this video, in the past 2 weeks I've spent 150 free hours on Total War Warhammer 3. That is a lot of time. That is an absolute a lot of time. And the majority of it, I'd say, was spent on this DLC. Yeah, I know. I've been playing a lot of the other older factions, but I wanted to play the Warriors of Chaos. I wanted to play Azazel. I'd been waiting for Azazel for years. I wanted to play Valkyr. I wanted to play Festus. I wanted to play Village. I wanted to see how they were so different from each other. And I was amazed. I was honestly amazed. I had so much fun that I just played for hours and hours on end. Is the DLC worth it? Yeah, it's definitely worth it. This is one of the few DLCs that I'll go, yeah, just buy outright. This is fantastic. This is on the level of the Vampire Coast, of the Tomb Kings. This is just that good. It's like a Race Pack 2.0. I'm looking very hopeful for the future if DLC is going to be of this quality. So yeah, let's hope for the best, and I shall see you all very, very soon. I desperately need some sleep, as you guys can imagine. I've been non-stop with the video drops. Thanks for the awesome 2 months. Tomorrow there'll be one more video before I go on a little break, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be really excited for that video. But until then, I shall see you all very, very soon. I think there will also be a stream today. Have a good day, guys.